Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Clay Link here with Todd Zola of RotoWire and Masters Ball. Always great to be talking with you, Todd. It is a little bit of a gloomy, the focus of the show, per request from somebody here at the company, actually. Kind of a sleeper pod. Nick Anderson, Todd, out past the All-Star break for the Rays. Now, a lot of people had him as the presumptive closer. We're drafting him as such. I'm not trying to, give ourselves too big of a pat on the back, but we had Diego Castillo heading up that committee just with the way things ended last year. Pete Fairbanks has actually been one of my favorite sleepers this year. Now, you'd think those two obviously get a bump up, but anybody else here, or is it your primary focus pretty much on Castillo and Fairbanks?
If I kind of really wanted saves, I would go for Castillo. If I was looking for the strikeouts and the draft for what goes good and not for what goes bad, I want Fairbanks. And I got Fairbanks. I
wanted to just mention Tom Withers of the Associated Press. I mean, this was from March 23rd. So
he's going to close too?
No. But he said Franco has, with high praise for Nick Wittgren, who has been reliable and consistent from day one, he could be a closing option to open the year. So I love him as kind of one.
I wouldn't.
We are talking sleepers per a in-house request, kind of our last sleeper hurrah. I'm assuming that person's kind of late getting around to his fantasy baseball prep. I don't know. Maybe not. But I'm good to just get these on record. And I got to say, I'm going to start actually with the deep dive and kind of one of my new favorite sleepers, Dalton Jefferies, A's pitcher. And James and I took him. Mostly, we're looking at it for a streamer early on. And it looks like with Mike Fiers out, Dalton Jefferies could be the guy. So while sleepers is a tough term to define, as you mentioned, Todd, and maybe sleepers don't really exist nowadays, we'll at least try to pinpoint some guys we like later.
I'm with you on Jefferies, and I'm not going to say I've been on him all along. I mean, I haven't talked a lot about him, but I just like the A's, and I like their scenario.
20 to 3K to walk this spring in 13 innings, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's opportunity there because, Luzardo and AJ Puck and Minaya, I think there'll be opportunities. Not necessarily these guys will get hurt, but the A's may want to slow things down and temper innings, et cetera, and I think Jefferies is an excellent target. I especially like Jefferies for those of you in keeper leagues that draft minor leaguers, and that some people will be drafting the Spencer Torkelsons, et cetera, right? And if you want to compete this year and draft a minor leaguer, a guy like Jefferies is the way to go. Mm-hmm. Don't if you're looking to compete and get someone that can help this year. I love doing that in my keeper leagues, that not dynasty but keeper leagues that have a minor league draft, especially this year where
big fan of Trevor Rodgers. He's been one of my sleepers throughout draft season. Got him for $1 last weekend in Tout Wars. Todd, I do have my NFBC player shares up.
I'm taking notes because I have my draft tonight.
Well, this first one's not going to surprise you at all. 8 shares, 88.9%. The most obvious sleeper of all time, I said, and that's no disrespect to people who've called him a sleeper. It's just that, we all look at these same things. We see the gap between the surface stats and the skills. And Yusei Kikuchi, 8 shares. I'm pretty happy with it, Todd. Maybe I'm overexposed, but he has been, I guess, my top sleeper. At least when I put my money where my mouth is in drafts, he's the guy I end up with.
No, I'm with you. I've been with him. I've been on him, and I'm probably going overboard here. And
I just wanted to be clear about that.
I'm with you on Kikuchi. I don't know. So that's one of your
caught sleeping.
Yeah, that's one of your percentages that. Well, maybe you were only doing NFBC. I don't know.
I'm only looking.
But no, I'm with you. And perfect streaming scenario. Hopefully more. He could. Mm-hmm. And now it's this is what we were talking about earlier. We had 2 starts, 6-man rotation. So he might get 2 starts once or twice, at least be scheduled for it. But he'll be in good matchups all the time.
Yeah, and just added velo, really good underlying numbers. So
another year in the league just to get in. It had to be tough.
I guess it's hard to call a guy who's going inside the top 100 a sleeper. But this guy was going in the first round for a half a decade, and now he's slipping. I was really happy to get him with James as a second base option. And now it sounds like he is indeed going to be leading off. Mm-hmm. At least that's kind of the way things are trending now. That'll pretty much do in Miles Straw as a sleeper for me.
It doesn't do in Miles Straw for me in that you can still run in the American League further down in the order.
True.
And that's what you're getting for. Now, obviously, at first versus sixth, seventh, or eighth, it could be 30, 40, 50 plate appearances, 3 or 4 steals. But if that's baked into the cost, it doesn't. I mean, I'm not into Miles Straw anyway, just strategically.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have Nick
I need
Madrigal.
some power if you probably had it. Why don't you tell us about some of your sleepers, Todd, that you're ending up with a bunch of spots?
Again, I haven't done a ton yet, but it's no secret that I'm into Kolten Wong.
Oh, yes.
And a little bit higher up. I mean, he's not a deep dive. I just think, especially in Milwaukee, potentially hitting leadoff.
That's a good sleeper right there.
On that team. I think he can run, a little bit of power. I just think he's being underappreciated at that spot. And I think Cesar Hernandez is still being a bit underappreciated. I don't think he's he's not going to steal 20, but I think he'll steal a few more bases. And I'll just add a third at second base and Jonathan Schoop, and this is all for a reason. 3 second baseman, Jonathan Schoop of Detroit, full-time at bats. Not a great lineup, but from where you're drafting Schoop, if you get the power, you'll get runs and RBI commensurate with a 300 pick, but you'll get more homers than other players in that area. But the point being, with 3 second basemen that I like at that point, and a couple others as well, one of the picks I just Pittsburgh, Gregory Polanco. All right. Last year, he fanned 40% of the time, something like that. But when he hit the ball, he still crushed it. The StatCast levers were still really strong, except that strikeout, which was deep, deep, deep blue. He's healthy this spring, and he's hitting the ball hard, and the strikeouts are down. He was, I don't know what round he was before, but he was a top 150 player, right? In that neighborhood.
Yeah, Gregory Polanco, yeah.
So I do like Polanco a lot. And you get him in the range where you draft Polanco as a flyer and you draft David Peralta as the hedge or whatever. And if Polanco doesn't work out, you throw Peralta and you throw Peralta back in there. Although you may want to draft Peralta anyway. A guy I've been on, Alex Dickerson.
Oh yeah.
And it's the what if. What if Oracle Park continues to play favorably? I've contracted our colleague Ray Flowers to put the tarp over the holes so that the wind stays the same. And if he's not able to do it, I'll get Eno to do it, or Howard Bender. I'll get one of our San Francisco colleagues. Yeah, Bender. Actually, Bender's the one that would do it. Bender, I'll send you a case of Peeps, and he'd be out there and. He'd be putting it up there. No, but my point being, it's the what if game. What if the ball is a little dejuiced? People are ignoring it. I did a Twitter poll. People don't care. The touts don't care.
Todd, I got to be honest. I'm not really in on those outfielders you mentioned. I think I'd rather roll the dice on a guy like Avisail Garcia, who looks a little squeezed right now, but I do think he's having a good spring and. The Brewers guys I talked to are adamant that he's going to play a lot. And another guy, this is a real deep sleeper, real deep. I didn't really think this guy had a chance to really play a ton this year, but Kyle Ispel of the Kansas City Royals and Alec Lewis of The Athletic tweeted yesterday. Just wanted to confirm that Alec Lewis, yes, he's with The Athletic. Ispel was starting in right field. According to Mike Matheny, quote, he's another guy who's in the mix and conversation for the opening day roster. Trying to get as many looks as we can before a final decision. So that's an outfielder, especially in those real deep AL only. Just to keep in mind because he has some pedigree as a prospect.
No, I agree, and there's some opportunity. We'll still be talking ball, but not. You shall see what happens. But no, Jay Cave has filled in for Byron Buxton primarily in the past. Again, mixed leagues. He's off the radar because he's only going to play 30% of the time, but he could be playing every week, every day for 3 weeks, in which case he's going to be giving good production, and then you drop him and you go somewhere else. So if you're, even if you just draft him as reserve in the NFBC just to see what happens, and he may end up playing. You get 3 weeks worth of production, you drop him. So in an AL only, I like him because he's not costing anything, and he's going to be playing all year. He's going to be up all year. What if Buxton gets hurt again? Oh no! What if play the what if game?
Yeah,
It should
what a
be
big what if.
when he gets hurt again. So Cave is another guy. I like these players that.
Absolutely.
I need another nickname for that game. It's too long.
That's a bit of a mouthful, I'd say.
Yeah,
But Emilio Pagan, I want to mention just because I got him for a buck. He's a big riser now. Do you think he's the closer? I mean, it's kind of hard to wrestle with the idea that they brought in Melanson. Like, why would you bring in that guy if he wasn't going to close? But there was a pretty strong report. Maybe it was Kevin Acey of the San Diego Union Tribune who he said there's a strong possibility it will be Pagan.
I think you have to go with it. Possession, 9/10 of the law, whatever. If he earns it, he earns it.
But earlier, I feel like I have to mention, maybe I'm contractually obligated to mention Aaron Civale. I like the pitch mix. I think it's a quality pitch mix. I like the command. I love that Tito just lets his guys go. He's an old school guy, and so I think Cleveland pitchers will be turned loose for the most part, unlike a lot of guys.
Well, and that's what's more important to me is the opportunity. And like you mentioned, to borrow our colleague Jeff Erickson's phrase, appealing to authority, the Indians have had some success. Even Corey Kluber. Let's go back.
I like Maikel Pineda. I've got him for a buck in multiple leagues. Fine with him at a buck. He's got that Michael Pineda reputation, but he's pretty good. Brady Singer, I like a lot too. I've written about him a few times. Just that combination of ground balls and K's, limited walks in the home park. I think it's a pretty nice combination. Trevor Rodgers, I mentioned earlier. Yeah, totally. I also mentioned Nick Pavetta. I guess I'm the last sucker on earth when it comes to Nick Pavetta.
That's the Red Sox fan, me. Oh, man. As much as I love what the offense is doing, the fact that you have to start Nathan Eovaldi on opening day and, Pavetta, I mean, we'll see what happens. Glass half full, Zola. Smile.
Elvis Andrews was a guy I got in labor, and I got him last night in the stake league for $3. That's my middle. I just needed some speed. In a mixed league, I think that's okay. And then Maikel Franco, maybe I'm just digging my heels in a little bit and hoping for the best after getting him for a buck. But I got him for $4 last night, and he just came in and immediately hit a homer. So I know he has language in his contract that will allow him to go down. Maybe that's still a possibility. But the fact that Maikel Franco just came in and was hitting a bomb immediately, I would have to think they start this guy on the big league roster.
If he doesn't, it's up soon. And he's not an extreme fly ball hitter, but he's ample fly balls. And intuitively, he's like a high strikeout guy. He's not. He strikes out in the teens. Mm-hmm. We've talked about it before. Make contact, hit the ball in the air, can win yards. It's a pretty good recipe for success.
Thank you so much, Todd. Thank you all for listening. Hope you'll join us again next week on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.